All right, Shea, you literally just passed the PMP exam today. How good do you feel?
I feel amazing. I cannot imagine or can't even explain or describe the feeling that I felt looking at that computer screen and seeing that congratulations once it popped up. Like you have no idea the emotions that went through my body. I remember them telling us that we weren't supposed to get up or move or leave. But after I saw that, I literally jumped up out of the thing and just tried to walk towards the proctors over there. He came running in like, wait a minute, hold on. Like we need to, sit down for a second. Let's get, he's like, let me hurry up and get you out of here so you can go and celebrate. Yeah, it was amazing. It truly was.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So everybody's got their own little story. Yours is unique and fun, or is a hell of a story, right? And so,
Mhm.
give us the relatively short version of like, how did you get here? Like, what's the ups and downs? Talk us through it, please.
Yeah. So long story short, I have been I had tried boot camps, I have purchased other programs, I had literally and it wasn't sticking. Like no matter what I was doing, like I couldn't I would read, I'd take the test, I would do what they were saying. It literally wasn't sticking. And it just so happened that someone else in one of my groups was like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy named Scott? And I was like, no, I haven't. And so she sent me a copy of your audio, and I heard it, and I was like, light bulbs just started going off immediately once I heard you talk. And I was like, I've got to hear more. I've got to find out who this guy is. This is how I'm going to pass this PMP. Because I mean, trying to read that through that PMBOK, I was just literally falling asleep. I took the time. My son, I have twin boys, and one was going through a bone marrow transplant. We were in the hospital for months, in Ronald McDonald for a few months. And so I was like, well, I have this time. I'm going to take the time also to try to study and focus. And, it just went through that process. And during that process, and I was getting home, finally found you, and I was like, I'm going to buckle down, and this is how I'm going to get through this process and finally get this done and off of my plate. I'm currently a certified scrum master, so I'm knowledgeable in projects,
Mhm.
but I just didn't have this certification of project management, and I wanted to have that for myself to kind of boost my career and have something else under another notch under my belt, so hopefully with financial, and to say, hey, that I achieved this myself as well. And so, like I said, I simply just wasn't getting it with everything else that I was doing. And once I got into your program, that it really sealed the deal for me. And so I want to say thank you to you and your coaches, because without you guys, I don't know where I would be, truly.
Oh man, it means a lot. And I remember the first time we chatted, you talked to John first, but then you talked to me, and yeah, it was pretty cool. You like what? I don't know if you remember. I don't know exactly what you said, but you got to cross the point. You were like, "I'm gonna do this for me." I don't know if you remember like you saying
Right.
that. You were like, "I'm gonna do
Yes.
this for me," and
Yes.
like resonated with us. We're like, "Yeah, like we're in this. Like let's go."
Right.
And I'm glad to see it to fruition. So that's really good. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about like the coaching calls because you're with Rob. And
Hmm.
what role in your development as you went through it did working with Rob and those accountability calls play? Like, how did that work for you? How did it help you? Like, what was the experience like for you?
It really helped me, and I'm really grateful for Rob, because Rob is he's the good push that you need. I in just by nature, when it comes to myself, because like I'm a servant leader, and I do kind of put myself on the back burner with things. And
Mhm.
so even with this, I kind of procrastinate, and I'm just like, oh well, I'll push the test off, I'll keep pushing this. But he held my foot to the fire. He was like, no, 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 you got this. I need a date. And like he literally, like he really kept, he was like, no, I need you to give me a date. I don't want you to push this back. I see how you answer these questions. Like really with you guys, even our coaching calls with him, and the night call with you, the way you guys go through the questions, and we kind of pick the questions apart. Why wouldn't we choose A, B, C, or D? Why would we choose A, B, C, or D? Like just really understanding the fundamentals and the basis of what's going on inside of the questions. It really helps a lot. And like I said, with him, with that and the team, like it doesn't make you feel bad to answer a question in those situations. You're not alone. I felt like a family coming into those coaching calls. Literally, I was eager to see some of the people that were there. We helped each other. You were never alone because you had yourself, and then you had one person that kind of winged you in with your question. So if you were there, then they would help to back you up or help you assist with the question. So you never felt like, oh my God, I feel so stupid. I don't want to answer this question, or I don't know what I'm doing. Even on your first night, you always feel welcomed. And I really appreciated that because even, a lot of people may not admit it, but we're still in a pandemic, or we were definitely in the pandemic when I started. And you don't get that. A lot of us aren't going into offices, or, we may be separated from our families, but to be able to come together in a group like that in unison and work towards a common goal that we were all trying to get was an amazing experience for me. And I get emotional. I truly appreciate that because we just don't know what we're all going through. So to be able to come into a family like that two nights during the week, it was a really good experience.
Damn, Shay. I agree too. And I just got off a call like that with you jumped in and to share. And it's the coolest thing is to draw back in and to see how everybody's just so happy for you. And they're like, dude, good job. And then they're picking your brain and it's just a positive thing. So it's a little sad when it's over, but I mean, we have a goal.
Yeah.
We want to accomplish it and we want to go now. As you were in the accelerator and you went through the courses and stuff, was you have a Scrum Master background and some stuff, but was there something about the way in which the courses taught you that resonated? Did you like how they broke things down and the visualness of it? And how did the actual e-course kind of go with you in your busy life?
Absolutely. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the course or will become familiar with the course soon, the case study, John,
Yeah.
That's a great, I think that was outside of your personal story, Scott, that is what resonated with me the most because you actually took us down and you sat us in a project, a situational project, as if we were actually going through a project. No other any program, any boot camp that I got into, it was not like that. It didn't make me feel like I was the person that was handling a project. What would I do in this scenario? What would be my next steps, my next recourse? What would I do? How would I plan for this? And that's exactly what the 7-day accelerator, your courses made me feel like. I was literally sitting myself down into a project, and I got to experience it all around me and also have myself inside of the project, learning the ins and outs, the workings, understanding more, getting more information, learning new things that I didn't know about projects. It was a really good experience that way. So I would say the case stories, the case studies, I'm learning about John being the project and the way you break down how everything works. So I think one of your examples was we look at it as you're going into you don't actually call it you're going into a corporation, or you're going into a building that's making an actual product, and they need where does this go? Why are we doing this? What is the reason that we're doing this? Breaking these things down and understanding it was the best thing, because when I was doing those other things, I didn't understand why we were doing it. What were we doing it for? It was basically, I was trying to memorize everything. That data dump was the worst thing. Today, I went into my test. I went in without any paper or pen. I didn't write anything down. I didn't have anything on paper, anything. I didn't write a data dump. All that stuff, that they tell you in these boot camps that you need to memorize. I had none of that. none of it at all.
Yeah.
And I passed.
And you did well. And so, like, obviously you don't believe that you have, there like a majority of the people out there think that like, yo, I got to memorize something, right? Like, so for those people that think like, I've got to memorize something, that's what's going to save me. What do you say to those people?
I say take that and throw it out of the window. Definitely. It's not about memorization. It is truly about knowing what is going on, what is happening, what is going on inside of the process groups and the knowledge areas, what is happening, what are we actually doing. And the best thing I would say is like when you feel like you can teach it or tell it to somebody else so that they can understand it, and that's exactly how in your courses you teach it, and I feel like I can explain it to somebody else and make it make sense. When I feel like I can make it make sense to someone else that doesn't know about the PMBOK, I think that that's an amazing job.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think that's really, really great. And so I like that it came across that like, well, I mean, I probably told you, but like our goal, my goal, and my goal with all the coaches and instructors and teachers and stuff is to say like our job is not to like give them the answers. Like we're going to paint the pictures as best we can. We're going to, you know, lay them in scenarios. We're going to support them till, you know, the cows come home, but we're never going to give them the answers like, okay, you struggle, you got it wrong. Here's the answer. Like it just doesn't serve you. Like, and
Mm-mm.
that's what you got across. And I think what it does is it makes you a teacher. And so like when I hear you talk and I hear you explain stuff, there's like a certain confidence that you've gone through this before, you've thought through it, you've stood on your own 2 feet and you've worked through it. And like, yeah, that I think that do you think it helps you as you look through projects in real life? Um, have you improved through this? Are you better for it? Do you have a different
Oh yes.
perspective? What's up?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I feel like it's crazy because usually you think that once you finish or you pass the PMP, you're like, I am done with this stuff. Whatever I was studying, I'm setting these books to the side. I'm never looking at the PMBOK, like that type of thing. You think that that's what's going to happen because you've just been so engulfed in that all the time. But I'm like, Scott's course was so great. Like it's a great course to keep just to kind of go through and refresh and to because it teaches you so much. It really teaches you the course of how to become a better project manager, how to be a better servant leader. It really teaches you those things. And I feel like that was the great part of your course because I didn't get that from any place else. I think like that's because that is the ultimate goal. Like, yes, we want to pass the PMP as you stated, but the ultimate goal is to be the best project manager out there. That is the ultimate goal. That is what I want to do. I want to be the best of the best. And I think like, your course definitely it's a standard above, it's a step above the rest, in my opinion.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We're getting it better every day. So, I mean, there's people out there that are saying like, yo, dude, like classes are classes, whatever, whatever. And I know we talked about it and this isn't a sales thing or whatever, but like, in your opinion, what's the difference between like boot camp and like the accelerator, like coaching experience, like what we're going through? How would you sum it down? Like boot camp versus this?
For one, boot camp has a data dump. I haven't seen one that doesn't have one. Yeah,
Okay.
it has a data dump. It's about memorization. It's about it's really about memorize. I can't. I don't know how you would. You don't. I haven't seen a boot camp that doesn't tell you memorization, data dump. This is what you need. I haven't seen one where it tells you like, look at this. Can you explain to me what we're doing from the process, the knowledge areas and the process groups? Do you know where we at? What are we doing in this knowledge in this process group? What are we doing here? What's happening here? And they don't go through and explain it to you like that. I think some has tells you that it kind of goes like this up and down instead of going directly across, but they don't explain like what's happening here, what's happening in control change, where are we going next, do you know what's happening here? They don't do that. And I think in your course that's exactly what happened. So you're like, oh, I know what's happening here. I know what we're doing in conduct procurement. I know what's happening here. I know where we have to go here. I know what we're creating here, and this is why. And I feel like that's the total difference. Like when you walk away from boot camp, it's like a whole bunch of information crammed maybe into 1 to 2 days, depending on what you take, or maybe a 8 weeks course over the week, 4 weekends or 6 weekends or whatever it may be. And then it's about trying to memorize and hold that information in so you can quickly get to the exam and just dump it all out. But there's nothing retained. But I feel like with your course, the information is retained. I feel like I walk away and I keep the information, and it allows me to go and apply it to my projects at my company and moving forward to become a better project manager. Like, well, I wasn't doing this. We weren't doing this. Well, definitely need to make sure that we incorporate this. This is how it should go, and that's definitely, I think, what sets your course apart from at those boot camps and things like that, for sure.
That's awesome, Shay. And I'm super glad we got to find a way to work together, dude. And so, yeah. And so I think that's great. You did so good. What's next for you? Like, what's the plan?
Well, to me, I feel like at this point, the sky's the limit. I currently work for a large tech company. Like I said, and I'm doing, projects currently. So I want to do that, but I kind of want to branch out on my own. I want to become my own company, because that's what it's about. I want to work in partnership with other companies. That is the goal, to become my own company and to just kind of work in partnership, and doing that with my Scrum background, and now being a certified PMP, and, just my gift of being, just the type of person that I am, and a background dealing in customer service and in sales. And I just think that this definitely is going to help me get where I want to go.
I love it. I believe in you. I mean, I think you're
Thank
going to do
you.
great. And I mean, you did so good here. You stuck to it, and you have the right mentality and just like the passion and stuff. Like, there ain't nothing going to stop you. So
Thank you.
that's awesome. So there's people out there that probably like you, or they resonate with the story, and they see like,
Mhm.
man, Shay did it, and like, yeah, I'm struggling, or I've just like, I went to these things and I invested in myself, but like it didn't pay off, and I just can't get there, or I haven't got there yet. To those people that kind of resonate with your story, and they're maybe like in the fight now, like, what do you say to them? Like, how do they get to where you are now? Like, what's the process? Like, what do they need to know?
Um, Stay the course. The one thing that I kept telling myself is, I'm worth the investment. I'm worth investing in myself. I can't think of anybody or anything else outside of my children that's worth the investment. And this investment, once I obtain it in for myself, is going to trickle down to a better quality of life for my children, for my family. So it basically, it's an overflow. But more importantly, like I said, you invest in things that may not even matter a few, like, maybe it's, like nice, like nice handbags or nice shoes, or just things that you may want to invest in. Like, invest in yourself. Like, take the time, whether it's time, the cost of the course, whatever it may be. Stop and take a moment and say, I'm worth the investment. I'm worth it. And I think that's what I would tell somebody. Take the time. Take that 2 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, once your house goes quiet, take the time, study, go over the course, do what you need to do for yourself to better yourself, because it's about the self-worth and doing something for yourself, which in turn, like I said, it trickles over. This will trickle down to quality of life for yourself, for your mate, your family, the children that you may want to have. You have to look at it like that. First, you have to invest in you. Put the time, invest in yourself first. Take that step and you won't regret it.
That's
I
awesome.
don't.
That is awesome, Shay. Well, you did amazing. This will not be the last time we chat. I'm really, really proud of you as always. And you did a great job and you did the hard work. You paid off. You spent a little time, more time with the kids now. And then you got those 3 little letters behind your name. So good job. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
See
Talk
you.
to you soon.
Bye-bye.